Crytek is one of the most recognizable airsoft brand names on the market. Their reliability at their affordable price point means that they are a great option for new players and old players alike. You get a lot of performance out of Crytek for their mid $300 price range. So today I want to talk about some of the things that Crytek has done that has changed the airsofting industry in the last few years, because a lot of the design features in Crytek, as small as they may be, are noticed by players and other companies and are adapted into their rifles for the next product season. So today I want to take a look at ways that Crytek has changed the airsofting industry since its inception a few years ago. And I also want to talk about if Crytek can continue to stay on top, whether a different company is going to take over that top premium AEG spot, and there are some competitors that are really vying for that position. What's up, Airsofters? My name is Lane, and welcome to the BB Warrior. We're here to help you have a better time both on and off the airsofting field. If you enjoy videos like this, we would love to have you subscribe for more airsofting content every Tuesday and Friday here on the channel. But nonetheless, this is my Krytac CRB. I have had this gun for about 2 years now. I've put about 70,000 rounds through it, and I absolutely love this gun. This is my favorite AEG I have ever owned. However, there are some guns that have come very close that we will talk about. So one of the first things that Crytek really standardized in the airsofting industry is the easily accessible battery compartment in a stock, because back in the day, everyone used the LMT SOP-mod style stocks, and if you've never used one of those before, they're a real pain to get to the battery. They have these two clips that are on the bottom part they have to squeeze in like most stocks. However, they're just obnoxious to get in and out. When I owned one, actually, I found it easier to take the entire stock off the buffer tube, and then that would be easier than trying to pop that back door off. The Crytek one's pretty easy. You simply just depress these two pins, which only takes a second, and it just pops off. This gives you excess two tubes in the side if you're running a nunchuck style battery, or you can fit a LiPo in there. And this was really one of the first people who did this. Now, the first people, as far as I know, is the VFC 416, 417, and VFC IAR. Because that's not Elite Force's design, that's HK's design. If you're unfamiliar with the HK stock, take the big squishy butt pad, turn it 90 degrees and it comes off. It's my favorite stock design to this day. I do have some complaints with it though. It has swing swivels right here and on the other side, and they get in your way right at the end of my face personally when I'm trying to aim down my sights. Back in the day, there were like the Troy Battle Axe stocks, my Mad Bull. However, while those are easy to get to, they don't have much battery space if you're running a nunchuck style battery, which were still pretty popular at the time. And ever since Crytek has done this, a lot of companies have started making sure that this is a necessity in their gun. You have people like VFC doing the QRS stock. You have PTS who do the PTS Enhanced Polymer stock, the EPS, which, let's be honest, that looks pretty much exactly like the Crytek stock. And you have a lot of other companies that are switching to original designs for stock design rather than going with the SOP-mod stock. You're seeing those less and less nowadays, and you're seeing companies go with their own individual idea to try to make sure that it's easy to get to your battery. And that's something that Crytek really started on the airsofting market. Now, the next one I want to talk about is Keymod. It's weird to think about, but there was a day and age where not every Airsoft M4 came with some sort of Keymod. I feel like Crytek was really the people that popularized real Keymod at an affordable price. Now, there were companies doing Keymod before Crytek, which is a lot of things. A lot of companies did stuff before Crytek. Crytek was just the first company to put it all into one gun at an affordable price. And the people I'm thinking of is G&G. Now, G&G has had Keymod on their guns for a while. However, G&G uses Airsoft Keymod. And if you're unfamiliar between mil-spec and Airsoft Keymod, it pretty much involves being lazy and not putting in the extra step to make it into real Keymod. There's a bevel on the inside that real Keymod attaches to. I've got some Keymod right here. And Airsoft Keymod doesn't have that bevel. So Airsoft Keymod and real steel Keymod are incompatible with each other, which they're trying to save money. I get that, but having the ability to put on real Keymod accessories would be a huge selling point and would easily outweigh that cost. Then you got to buy Airsoft Keymod, which isn't as stable, and things like that. So like I said, back in the day, not really anyone used Keymod, and now everyone has Keymod. Going back to them, VFC Avalons have Keymod. They also have M-Lock, which I'm a huge fan of. We'll talk about that in a minute. PTS has the wedge lock system. They have some M-Lock rails. They have Keymod rails. Needless to say, almost every gun has Keymod on it nowadays. Honestly, I find it more hard-pressed to find an Airsoft M4 that doesn't have Keymod than does have Keymod when a new gun releases. Everyone has Keymod, but what if I don't want Keymod for some reason? And this was actually one of the big selling points to me is I had never tried Keymod because it's still a relatively new system. And one of the biggest issues I had, again, with my VFC 416, the front end is heavy. It is just a block of metal because the real one has to accommodate for the extra gas space because it uses a different design than the AR-15 or the M4. So that's something that Elite Force can't help without sacrificing quality. However, it was noticeable on day one that this front end was lighter even though it had the same size barrel. Now, another thing I want to talk about in this gun that you can't see is the easy access spring. Now, I don't say quick change because all of these systems are not quick. You still have to do a lot of disassembly on the gun. It's not like the A&K saws or the APS UAR or I believe the Tavor even, where you just twist a screw and your entire spring assembly comes out. You still got to do a lot. However, you can take the spring out without taking the gearbox apart, which is pretty daunting for a lot of people, myself included. I'm not much of a tech. So the ability to more easily take out your spring, I'm going to say, because quick change is kind of not necessarily true. That's something that a lot of companies have implemented into their rifles, including VFC again. So Crytek has done a lot of things to their airsoft gun that companies have copied or adapted into their guns to compete with Crytek. Again, Crytek was not the first person to do a lot of these. Crytek was not the first person with Keymod. Crytek was not the first person with an easy open stock. However, Crytek was really the people that were able to put this all into one package and make sure that it was at an affordable price point. You could pick up a Krytac CRB, a Mark I, for $325, which is what I have here. And that's a really good deal for what you get. This is a fantastic airsoft gun. This outshoots my VFC, or my VFC I had, any day of the week. However, Crytek does have some things that they have to be concerned about if they want to stay on top. And those are a few issues that I want to discuss in this video as well. I think one of the largest things that Crytek will have to address is that they don't have much in the way of customization of their airsoft gun, or different models, I should say. There are 5 versions of the Crytek, however, they all look pretty similar because they all use the same rail. They use the Defiance Trident rails. And to be honest, they look a little outdated. They're not as aggressive looking as some of their competitors, like again, the VFC Avalon, which is a huge competitor to Crytek right now. And I think they need to try some new things. I think that Crytek partnering with a group like PTS or Mad Bull could really, really go a far way, even though neither of those are in their distributing group. And I feel like Crytek needs to do some things to make their guns stand out a little bit more. And you might be saying, well, Lane, they're making the Vector, they're making the AR-47, they're making that shotgun in a few years. Don't be so greedy. And I understand I'm being a little bit greedy in what I want for Crytek to succeed. However, while those guns are really cool, they're also really niche guns. If you haven't noticed, not everyone runs around with a submachine gun or a shotgun. Everyone on the airsoft field, with the exception of a few people, run around with an M4. M4s are stupidly popular in airsoft, so I think that Crytek needs to do some things to make their M4s appeal aesthetically to a lot of other people. And I think that's one of the things that the Avalon has them beat on. The Avalon has 4 different designs at the moment. However, they have M-Lock and Keymod, which is something that I'm a big fan of because I'm starting to like M-Lock more than Keymod because I find that M-Lock is more secure. And the fact that Crytek doesn't offer an M-Lock version of their guns unless you buy the Alpha is a little disappointing to me. Now, I would love it if they made like front-end kits for it. However, I understand why they don't because they want to signify the Trident series from the Alpha series. But I would really like to see some partnerships through Crytek or maybe just their own original design for rails that just give a little bit different look. Even if Crytek went with a rail system instead of Keymod, I would find that really interesting. Another thing that Crytek is going to have to address soon is the crack bodies. If you're unfamiliar, pretty much if you're not in the Crytek owners group, Crytek's have been splitting between the swing plate, and the pistol grip. And that happens a lot. There are probably like once a weekend people posting about this. And I don't get how you guys are doing that. I've owned my Krytac, like I said, for almost 2 years. They use the same material, the same way to make their receivers, and you guys are cracking them. Like, I've talked to people at Crytek, nothing has changed in the way that they make their receivers, but people are cracking them. So Crytek is going to have to address why this is happening. I don't want to say anything because, again, I don't work for Crytek. I don't work at the Crytek factory where they cast these out of aluminum, which for people who are going to say that they shouldn't be using aluminum, VFC uses aluminum, they cast their aluminum as well. Pretty much all airsoft bodies and receivers are cast. A lot of the higher end ones are cast in aluminum, some of them are just pot metal, but everyone casts their guns. But that is something that Crytek is going to have to address, because if you're not in the US, like let's say you're in Canada, where as far as my understanding of the law goes, it's like an AR-15 works here in the US. The receiver, the lower receiver, is the gun. I'm probably butchering the legal explanation of this, but the lower receiver is the gun. So if the lower receiver cracks, you can't just buy a new one, because that is the airsoft gun in Canada. If any of you live in Canada, I would love to have you better explain this than I do, but that's just the way that I've gathered from some of the people I've talked to. So if you have a cracked receiver in some of those places, it can be kind of hard to get to. And while Crytek customer service is fantastic, and they're really some of the most reachable people in the airsofting industry, there are still some issues. And that brings me to the next point, Crytek's partnership with Ebike. Now, this one caused some controversy. This one was fun to lurk and eat some popcorn and watch. Now, if you're not familiar, Ebike is the exclusive distributor of Crytek airsoft guns. You immediately might be saying, oh, well, that's a load of crap. That's killing smaller airsoft stores. Crytek's just in it for the money, blah, blah, blah. However, when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. If you're unfamiliar, Ebike is a wholesaler to other airsoft stores because, from my experience working in the industry, if you go to each brand and try to buy their stuff, minimums exist. And a lot of companies can't afford to buy $750 of Jag products or $750 of Valken or G&G or APS. It costs a lot of money to get all of those different brands in. So Ebike acts as a wholesaler for all of those brands. So you can get a little bit of everything from one supplier. And Ebike has significantly more wholesale customers than Crytek ever did. So in all honesty, it makes a lot of sense why it was done. And one, it's easier on Crytek so they can put their focus elsewhere. And two, Ebike has a better distribution center than them. Because Ebike does a lot more packages per day, Ebike has more experience in shipping. And in all honesty, it makes a lot of sense. And a lot of people are still angry about it because every airsofter has a master's in business association degree. But I digress. I think that it's a good thing, despite the fact that Ebike is carrying them. I understand why Crytek did it, because it allows them to reach more people with their airsoft guns. And if people are going to be mad, well, it's hard to change someone's mind. So I think that's something that Crytek's going to have to deal with for a while. Even though I personally think it's a good thing for Crytek as a business, I think that there's going to be a lot of fallout from it, because there's going to be a lot of people that disagree with me, who have never worked in the industry, I should add. So that's something that Crytek is going to have to deal with. While it doesn't affect their guns in any way, I think Crytek really has to stay on top of their RMAs and things like that and working with Ebike. So when someone has a broken receiver, because sometimes these are really bad, that it can be addressed, which so far they are. Crytek, again, has great customer service. And I think that people have just had a lot of horror stories with Ebike customer service, myself included. So I think that's something that people are somewhat afraid of. Now, the gun I want to talk about for a while is the VFC Avalon. The VFC Avalon is Elite Force and VFC's answer to Krytek. It is a very similarly styled gun. They have a short version, they have a long version, they have Keymod, they have M-Lock. This is VFC's answer to Crytek. And I felt for a while that VFC has been playing catch up to Crytek. And like as soon as VFC does something, Crytek does something better. Right now, I feel like they're neck and neck. I think that's something that VFC doesn't beat Crytek in at all is hop-up. Crytek makes a fantastic hop-up, and there's a reason I left it stock. But VFC is getting very close to Crytek, if not neck and neck. And these next few years are going to be interesting to see what can be implemented in an airsoft gun to make it better without raising the price over $400. Because right now they sit at about the same price point. They're still about $345, $350 for the short ones, then upwards to $370 for the long versions. But I think that VFC having more customization in their guns is a really, really good thing. Having that M-lock is great because there is a lot of stigma against Keymod. SOCOM just released a report saying that M-lock is better than Keymod. So I think a lot of people want to switch over to M-lock. And again, people that have their cracked receivers, while that isn't super common, word gets out and it's bad publicity. I can't say that word for some reason. Publicity. Thank you. So I think these next few years will be interesting. What's the next big thing that's going to go in airsoft guns? I'm not sure. I'm kind of banking on the idea that when your magazine runs dry, your gun's going to stop firing. A couple of companies have started doing that. And I think it's a really cool concept. However, it adds more parts, it adds more time, it adds more money. And if there's something that airsofters don't like, it's being proprietary. Crytek has a few proprietary parts in it. However, they're not stupidly proprietary like Krytac. Like, who has a two-piece hop? Or they're not stupidly proprietary like KWA. Excuse me. I mean, who puts a two-piece hop up in their gun? Come on. It's 2017, Crytek or KWA. I'm going to keep making that mistake. I'm sorry. So overall, I think the next few years are going to be very interesting to see what companies put in their gun to try to make them better than the other. I think that VFC and Crytek are neck and neck, and I want to see who comes out on top. Something else I think that we might see, I talked about this a few months ago, was brands putting already upgraded barrels in their guns. Crytek currently has a partnership with Laylax to make Prometheus barrels exclusively for Crytek airsoft guns, so they have them for, again, the CRB, the SPR, the LVOA, the PDW. So I think the next few years are going to be very interesting. What one of these companies is going to do to get ahead of the other, I don't know. I honestly don't know, but I'm very excited to see what happens in the next few years. Now, like I said, my Crytek is getting old. 2 years, 70,000 rounds. Typically, that'd be the end of a gun. Like, rest and pepperoni, I need to buy a new gun. I think my next gun is going to be a VFC Avalon. And as much as I can say nice things about my Krytac CRB, and really, I absolutely love this gun. And I'm not trying to be a big Crytek fanboy. If there's a gun that is better for the same price point, I'm going to buy that gun, no matter what. However, I want to buy an Avalon. And the reason I want to buy an Avalon is I want to compare it to Crytek, because I've owned my Crytek for 2 years, and I want to see how the Avalon performs against it. Now, again, because I'm not trying to be a fanboy of one brand, I think this will be a good thing for me. Because, one, as a reviewer, I can get some more experience with other brand airsoft guns, and two, I can really give a better judgment of VFC versus Crytek. Because I've owned VFC airsoft guns, I've owned my Crytek, I really want to see how the newest generation of both stack up to each other. And I would love to do that video down the road soon, but as soon as this gun dies, it's going to be replaced by an Avalon. I want to know what you guys think of Crytek. I know there's a lot of really, really good press for Crytek, but at the same time, there are people who don't like Crytek airsoft guns, especially airsoft techs that aren't doing DSG builds, because they do have some proprietary parts. But I want to know what you guys think of Crytek airsoft guns. Make sure to let me know down in the comments below what you thought about some of the talking points in this video. And again, if this was your first time here, I would love to have you subscribe for more airsofting content every Tuesday and Friday here on the channel. If you haven't already, make sure to follow us on social media like Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I'm actually having a lot of fun once I started using Twitter again, and you can see me rant about some stuff. And on Facebook, we do reviews that we don't do here on YouTube. This has been Lane from the BB Warrior, talking about the history of Crytek airsoft guns and how they really revolutionized the airsofting industry, and, well, to see if frankly, if they're going to be beat in the next few years. And I will see you all next time.